So, Yud Gimel Lamed Aleph. Ein lochim batim avadim ubehema el tzorcha moed. So one cannot acquire houses, avadim, slaves, and behema. And in the version of the Mishnah in the Yerushalmi, it has even avanim, stones. Wouldn't buy stones on Shabbos, but you could possibly buy it maybe on Chol Moed, el tzorcha moed, if you were using it for Chol Moed. So let's say you needed a house to live in, right? As opposed to an investment in real estate, or a slave that you needed to serve you, or you needed an animal. What would you need an animal for Chol Moed? To eat.
You can
shecht them. To shecht it. Probably the chef, because the amount of work you're going to do is probably not a lot of laborious work. So the probably case was behema to.
Maybe you had to visit somebody. I mean, you promised them something or whatever. They were sick. You wanted as far away. Who knows? So that
you want to travel. Perhaps,
yeah, that's it. Maybe.
Okay. So I'm trying to think. Did they travel on behema? Most probably traveled more on sus gamal.
I don't know if this. Well, gamal's a pretty big thing, and I don't think they had so many susim. Maybe the average person.
Maybe.
Or donkey. The average person who had transportation was a donkey for sure.
All right. So Yud Gimel Lamed Aleph. It's sticky here. I put a cover, so that's what this is all about.
Yeah. Maybe move over one because it's like.
Okay, we'll get those. And according to Yerushalmi's version, it says avanim. So you could be purchasing stones if you needed to fix a wall that was about to come down. And this was tzorach rabim, sakana, pikuach nefesh, or you need to take the wall down and rebuild it from scratch. Yud Gimel Lamed Aleph. There's a Mishnah about
Right.
Okay. And so one permissible reason is l'tzorach hamoed for yantif, or l'tzorach hamocher, or the seller. You don't really need this object, but the seller needs to raise cash. So the seller needs to complete the sale. It's like being a pawnbroker. The seller needs to complete the sale so he can make it through yantif. She'ein lo ma yochal, and he doesn't know.
We have a guest back here. We have a.
Oh, okay, great, okay. She'ein lo ma yochal, and because he needs the money for yantif, so therefore you can
buy from him, even though you do not have this as a tzorach moed directly for yourself. Okay. So, and by the way, by extension, this could be seen as, and this is what Tosa says, this would be even other objects as well that are tzorach moed. And for helping the poor seller. Right. Okay. Now, the question that Gemara is going to talk about is going to be, what about if it's not? Well, I asked this before. We said this couldn't be. So let's wait till we see the Gemara. Okay. Bo minei Ravam Rav Nachman. Schar p'ula she'ein lo ma sheyochal mahu. Okay. What is that?
What's schar p'ula?
Yeah.
Schar p'ula.
I'm trying to say schar p'ula. He just says schar p'ula. He just says avodah. Schar avodah shel po'el is what Rav Steinsaltz translates or adds. Schar p'ula avodah shel po'el she'ein lo ma yochal. So we have a worker, presumably. That's what it sounds like.
Right.
It doesn't have what to eat.
So in other words, can I hire him to give him work in order for him to be able to have to be paid? So in other words, it's not work for Chol Moed. I don't need this for Chol Moed.
Right.
But he needs money. In the case in the Mishnah, it looked like he was selling an object. So I can purchase the object even though I have no purpose for it. But this is now, can I hire him?
Right. He's selling his labor in a sense.
Can I hire him for labor that's not for Chol Moed?
Right.
Normally I can't do labor that's not for Chol Moed.
Because the laborer needs the money to buy food for yantif.
Correct.
He's selling
so there is an indirect purpose for Chol Moed, not for me, for the other guy.
Yeah.
And if there is a difference. One difference is the difference in the first case is there's no real malacha taking place; it's a transaction, right? Transactions are only permissible for Chol Moed. In the second case, I'm causing him to do work, but the upshot is he will have money for Chol Moed.
And of course, since it's a third party, you have no idea if he really is going to use this money for L'Tzorach Yontiv or not.
I know.
Right?
I'm assuming that is correct. I'm assuming that the request is valid and it's legitimate, and this guy is really in hard times and wants to keep Yontiv, and we're not in a position to give him enough handouts to make it work for him, so he actually needs to go work, or he wants to keep his pride to be able to work.
We give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, but I'm assuming that this is not about being Malamed Schus, that the case is verified, that he's really going to use a fiat. The same way he sells me his cow. How do I know that he's going to use the money for Chol Moed? The assumption is, that's a given. That's the premise we work with.
Yeah. The question is, again, he's selling his labor instead of an object.
Correct.
It's not valid.
Correct. And labor, because it's tircha, is more consecrated for Chol Moed than simply sales.
Right.
Okay. So that's Rav's question. Schar pa'ula she'ein lo ma yochal ma'hu. What about not schar poel, not the object, not for the mocher, but the poel is going to work. So Amalei, so he said Tanina. We learned this already. O l'tzorach mocher she'ein lo ma yochal. So the Mishnah said, and it gave a bit of a longer kind of expansive sentence. It says, for the purpose of the mocher who doesn't have anything to eat. Now, why do I need to say she'ein lo ma yochal? It seems to almost be extraneous, because it said l'tzorach mocher. The mocher needs it, so obviously he has nothing to eat. So the Gemara says, "My love lasuye schar pa'ula." The Gemara seems to include this almost like o l'tzorach mocher v'she'ein lo ma she'yochal. It's for the purpose of the seller or someone who doesn't have enough to eat. So, which would include so it's including not just the case of sale, it's including a case of worker. My love lasuye schar pa'ula. So Gemara says, no, you really can't learn it from this line in the Mishnah, because the way we learned it, it's the mocher who doesn't have anything to eat. So it's Amalei lo Perusha Kamafarish. The Mishnah is simply one long stanza, one long phrase. The seller who does not have anything to eat. Now it means I can buy it from a seller, and I can do something for a person who has nothing to eat. The simple pshat is the same. It's all about one person. So the Gemara says you really can't prove it from our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, okay, well we'll find a proof. Esvei Abaye. So now Abaye asks the question. It says as follows: Ein kosim shtarechol b'moed. I can't write a business contract or an IOU, promissory note on Chol Moed. V'meino mamino. And if I don't, but if the person does not believe me, the lender does not believe me that I'm going to pay him back, and the only way he will lend me the money is if I write a promissory note. Okay. O she'ein lo ma she'yochal, or he has nothing to eat. Well, who has nothing to eat?
The person who's writing the star, I guess, right? Because normally
the person who's writing the sofer.
Oh, the sofer. I see.
The person writing the star is a scribe. No, neither the lender nor the borrower. There is a professional scribe who writes the document, like you'd have a lawyer.
Yeah.
Right. So the scribe is unemployed, and the scribe doesn't have enough to eat. So therefore, we're going to help the scribe by giving him the business and we don't really need a shtar chov, but indirectly he can be helped to have food for Yantif.
Otherwise, it sounds like two cases because it has an O. Right? So it says, Imeino Mamin. It sounds like two possibilities. One, I don't trust the person I'm giving the money to.
Right.
O, in the case you're talking about, the scribe himself, let's say I do believe somebody, I don't know what. But, shtar looks better. So I don't know, are there two cases we're talking about?
So that's what the Gemara is going to prove. So you see, when we learned from our Mishnah, we said it was one case.
Right.
We said it was a case of L'tzorach Moed, or L'tzorach Mocher, Shein Lo Ma Yochal. We said maybe it's two things. He says, no, it's one thing. Here it says, V'meino mamino, kama.
Right.
Oh, she'ein lo mayochal. That's something else. Harezi yichtov.
Right.
So the Gemara says she'ein lo mayochal asuye mai. Right. What is that second piece? It's a standalone because it says ein lo mashiochal.
Right.
My love lasuye schar pu'ulo does not include. I got to pay the scribe for his work, and he needs it. Shema minov. From this we see this to be okay.
If I could ask a question now, does it have to be a case where he needs the money?
Yes.
I mean, one would think that, well, let's say he did not need the money, okay? But
I need the star.
No, I'm saying he's going to use that money.
Who's the he? Who's the he?
The scribe.
Okay.
Is going to use the money L'tzarech Yantiv. Even though he doesn't necessarily, he could use some other money.
So there's like a haroma. He's going to say the money I have I don't need. I'm going to use them. I need new money.
Right.
But that's not what it says. It says ein lo mayochal. It says he's saying that he's going to.
Like he has no money. He has no money, and this is the only thing he's got, and the only thing he's going to have for Yantiv.
Banks are a very recent institution.
Not just banks. We have no concept. People were so poor. So poor.
In other words, they're living hand to mouth.
Sure. Yeah. I think last week's parsha, the guy sleeps in a thing, right? You can't take it because that's the only thing he has to sleep in. I'm saying people were so poor we can't begin to imagine.
Right. If you hire a day laborer, you're paying him at the end of the day. Now the reality is there are different standards. If you pay a person at the end of the week, you have to pay him at the end of the week. If the standard is you paid at the end of the month in arrears, you pay at the end of the month. Whatever the deal is. But for an example, if you hire a babysitter, is a good example. Babysitters are not paid by the week, right? You get the kid, you pay him cash. So the halacha is, in terms of paying the worker on time, you have to pay the babysitter at the end. You can't really say, come back next week, I don't have money with me. That's really holding up.
Right.
Yeah, and in the case, really, I think in last week's parsha with the day labor, with don't let the sun go down, I think it said something about his nefesh, like his soul is bound on this, right? It's like people were just so unbelievably poor, it's incredible.
Yep, they lived closer to the land and closer to what it was. All right. So the Gemara says, Shema Mino, we learned from that's a proof. Okay. Masiv Rav Sheshes. So here's a question now from Rav Sheshes. This is about Erev Pesach. This is not about Chol Moed. In Erev Pesach, there was a rule, especially after Chatzos, that you kind of mitigated the amount of work you did, similar in many cases to Chol Moed. So the Mishnah or it's actually Tosefta in Maseches Pesachim, lists 3 people who were allowed to work in certain places when other people were not.
Okay.
So Gemara says, "V'chachamim omrim," is quoting part of this brayso. Shalosh shemonios osim malacha ba'arvei pesachim ad chatzos. There were 3 kinds of people who were so needed that they had to go to work until midday on Pesach, right? But what happens midday at Pesach?
Why don't we stop eating?
You're busy. You actually
stop eating chametz.
Stop eating chametz. You're ready for Pesach. It's the time that you have the Korban Pesach is set. You burn the chametz. So actually, in fact, this is really off topic, but person sits shiva. They got up at Chatzos on Erev Pesach. Now, people have misinterpreted this and think it applies to every week. Sometimes you hear people say, "I'm sitting
Erev Shabbos."
Right, Erev Shabbos. I'm sitting shiva only till Friday at Chatzos. Okay, you hear that very commonly. It's really a misinterpretation. Really, people have to get up on Erev Shabbos the amount of time they need to get ready for Shabbos. So a person is traveling; they may need to get up at Chatzos. Person is simply where they are; they need time to get a shower and get ready. So it's the misinformation comes from Erev Pesach, which at Chatzos there's a real beginning of the themes of the Yontif. Chametz, matzah, Korban Pesach, Chabura has to be ready for Chatzos, for Korban Pesach, and so forth. So anyway, 3 people, 3 professions need to work on Erev Pesach at Chatzos. Chayatim, tailors. Safarim, these are barbers, and Kofsim, and these are washers. Okay.
people who were
launderers,
launderers, cleaners. So why were these three people needed? So the Gemara, so the Bryce explains, Chayatim, or the Gemara explains, Shekain Hedyo Tover Kedarko B'Chol Moed. So what's going to look like here is that people can work on Erev Pesach if there were cases where these same people, something similar could happen on Chol Moed. Chazal looks like they built it based upon existing Chol Moed permissibility. So therefore, we know that certain people could you can sew in a very inexperienced stitch on Chol Moed. So therefore, you see that sewing is not out of the ballpark completely on Chol Moed, and therefore sewing is not out of the ballpark completely on Erev Pesach, and therefore even a tailor can be open. Saparim and Kovsin, a barber and a launderer, Shekin Aboim Mdina Sayam, Vayotmi Beis Asur, Mitzram L'Sapel L'Chavet B'Chol Shemoed. Because we're going to see in the next Perek that while normally you really can't launder clothing on Chol Moed, and you can't go for a haircut on Chol Moed, a person who could not take care of their clothing or could not get a haircut before Chol Moed was permissible, specifically someone who was let out of jail. Right. Conditions in the dungeons were horrendous. Right, and a person got up; they were terribly disheveled and had not have a change of clothing down there. So therefore, you see that there were some people who needed to be employed as barbers and launderers in case these people got out of jail, which actually may have been common in Roman times. So therefore, Erev Pesach, these people could still work. Okay. So the Gemara says, no, wait. But if you're telling me that I can hire anyone on Chol Moed to work if they need food, I can hire a laborer and pay him to work if he needs food. Right. So why can't I say that on Erev Pesach anyone can work? If the template for these people working on Erev Pesach, the tailor, the launderer, the barbers, because there were some people in certain cases who worked on Chol Moed in these professions. So what there were definitely cases where people could have worked because they needed food on Chol Moed, and therefore there ought to be people similarly who should be able to work on Erev Pesach. Anyone should be able to work on Erev Pesach. And if you say that schar pula, the idea that anyone can work who needs money, who needs food, so kol malacha nami lishri, say any type of labor should be permissible on Erev Pesach because there's a template for on Chol Moed the guy who's starving to go get a job, to go work. So that's Rav Shesh's question. He's trying to say, it seems from that therefore a person who needs to eat cannot work on Chol Moed, because if he could work, then this Mishnah seems to give a special exemption for these three professions on our Pesach should include every profession.
And since it doesn't,
it seems that therefore that profession can't. The idea of being hungry and eating food is not going to be a matir to work on Chol Moed. That's Rav Shesh's question on the premise of the Gemara. And in true fashion, the Gemara answers the question with another question. So Maskis Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, well, if that's the case, binyan lishtri, anyone who builds should be permissible to be builders on Erev Pesach. Shekain kotel agol shusarab soter bonakadarko. If you have on Chol Moed a wall that's collapsing, we talked about selling stones. Right. The wall's collapsing. What do you do on Chol Moed? You knock it down and build it from scratch. So if you see that there's a scenario where you can build and destroy and build walls on Chol Moed, so in Erev Pesach, any builder should go to work. Maskif Ravina asks a second question. It's a similar kind of question. Elamiata, lavlar, a lavlar is a scribe. Lishtve, every scribe should be able to be permissible to have his normal job on Erev Pesach. Shekain kotim kiddushin nashim gitim v'shovarim, because there are cases where you can write a ksuva for a woman on Chol Moed, you can write a get on Chol Moed, and you can write a shovar, like a very short receipt about a transaction that took place. So these take place on Chol Moed, so it should also be on Erev Pesach. Elam Ravashis. Ravashi comes now and he answers the question on Rav Sheshes. Says, Rav Sheshes, your question was not correct. Elam Ravashi, Moed Arbasa Karamis. You're asking really Chalamoed, and you're comparing it to the 14th day of Nisan, Erev Pesach the Chalamoed. They're not similar. Moed Misham Tirchahu. The reason that we don't permit these things on Chalamoed is because of Tircha. Ubamakum say the Sharlei Rabbanan, and where there's a loss, the rabbis permitted it.
Right.
Our boss are Mishum Tzorach Yom Tov who needed the Tzorach Yom Tov Shari Rabbanan needed love Tzorach Yom Tov Lo. On Erev Pesach, only things that had a connection to Yom Tov were permissible. So therefore, a person needed maybe something to be stitched on for Yom Tov, or a person needed a haircut for Yom Tov, or a person needed clothing to be laundered. That's permissible. Needed love Tzorach Yom Tov Lo Shari Rabbanan. But a worker, which has no connection to Chalamoid. A worker's need is indirect. It's a need. He needs money, and the money that will be raised he can purchase for Chalamoid. But that's not the same as doing something that the act itself leads directly to an improvement for Chalamoid. So Rav Ashi's real response is, you're comparing apples and oranges, Rav Sheshes. You're trying to say, you see from this case about Chalamoid, that if that were the case, everybody should go work on Chalamoid on Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach is a different kind of scenario. The reason to work on Erev Pesach is really about getting ready for Yom Tov. Chazal made a decision what was needed to get ready for Erev Yom Tov. Sapar, barber, launderer, chaya, tailor. The others were not included, and therefore you can't really extrapolate it to all kinds of other labors and try to figure out what's a Chalamoid. Chalamoid is about tircha. Erev Pesach is about getting ready for Yom Tov. Okay? So we're really left to where we are, that the Gemara seems to say that schar poel is permissible. The poel needs to sell it, and the poel needs to work. It's permissible for that person to do it on Chalamoid. That's where we left it, where we really started from. Okay, next Mishnah. Ein mefanim mibayis labayis. Okay, this is about moving from one. It's a little bit difficult. You can't move utensils or grain from one house to another house that were not in the same courtyard. This is not about carrying. It's not use of carrying, it's tircha, Rashi says. So if I have an object in one house, and I have to travel from, and the way the houses were built in those days, there were houses around the courtyard, and a common courtyard led out to the street. So I have to go from one house through the courtyard to another house.
It's like a Shabbos type thing in that sense.
Or in this case,
courtyard, they used to be able to just go.
Right, but in this case, we're interpreting what Rashi says. It's one house in one courtyard to another house in another courtyard. So it's not. So it's really but it's not Rishus Harabim. It's not a carrying kind of thing like Shabbos. It's about tircha. If I have to go from one house and schlep it through the courtyard and out to the street and find the next courtyard and then find the next house, that's already a big schlep. So that I can't do on Chalamoid because of tircha. Aval, mafanahu lechatzero, but I can carry it from the house to another house in the same chutzner. That's how the Gemara is going to explain it. It looks like I'm carrying from the house to the chutzner.
Right.
He's carrying from one house to another house in the same courtyard. Okay? Good. Ein mevin, next thing. Ein mevim kelim beisa uman.
Sorry, can I just, I think the wall somehow got open?
Yes.
Close it at all, or maybe, I mean, we'll still hear them, but maybe not as much, I don't know how.
You open up just now.
Okay, there you go.
It doesn't go. It's supposed to, you need the thing to drain it to. It's a stretchable wall. It's supposed to be stretched
but it's still
tight.
better. They still closed at the moment. They cut off some of the sound.
Right. So we have to get the caretaker. The caretaker to do that. The caretaker has a thing that goes in and it turns it, that extends the wall and makes it tight.
Right.
Keeps it out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Where we up to? So that's right. Ein mevin kelim beita uman. This is once again. This is about tircha. It's also about tircha. But you're schlepping. You gave something to the artisan to fix before Yom Tov.
Right.
And now it's completed. You can't schlep it home. Or for that matter, you can't purchase it and schlep this home. These were heavy things. Mi beita uman. Because of either tircha, according to Rashi Psachim, or because some people may think that we made the utensils ourselves, we were involved in creating things. Im choshesh mehem, if you're afraid to leave them there in the house of the artisan, someone may steal it, they're not really secured. Mefan l'chatzer acheret, I can move it to another courtyard, not my house, but something closer, but not all the way, where it's going to be considered in a secured area. Okay? Now, the utensils we're talking about are not such utensils I need for Yantiv. They have no purpose for Yantiv whatsoever, because if I need it for Yantiv, I can use it, I can move it. It's a completely extraneous, and we'll see that in the Gemara. But if there's no purpose, I can only move it if it's in a non-secured area. And even if I'm going to move it, we'll see the Gemara is going to say I move it in a way that has less publicity about it.
Are we saying there was no general rule? I mean, we have a specific one here. If you bought something with somebody, and he even paid for it, could have paid for it in advance, right? To the Oman, he could have bought anything. Could be, he said to somebody, make me a whatever, right? And the person made it. Are we saying that there isn't a general rule about Chol HaMoed that you can't go and take it? Or generally you could go, but we need a specific thing that says you can't?
The reason we're saying is because it's something heavy and it's something tircha. So therefore it's hard work. With the two rules, the major rule that applies to Chol HaMoed is tircha. Tircha. And the overriding concern that kind of trumps that is hefsei. So if we're going to lose it, it can trump tircha.
I'm just wondering why in this particular mission that we need. The first one, Rashi says, is tircha. I can't move it from this chatzar to that chatzar or whatever because of tircha. So that makes sense, but I guess they didn't feel you could extrapolate from there.
No.
In other words, why is the Oman a special case? I'm not clear.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Okay. I don't know.
We don't have this special rule of tircha by Shabbos, do we?
Sure we do. Of course we do.
We can't do tircha on Shabbos.
What, do you think, would it be right for you to go home and pick up a sack of cement and a 50-pound sack and schlep it back and forth?
It's not Kabbalah Shabbos, but...
Correct. It's more than not Kabbalah Shabbos. It's called, it's not, well, it might be Moed. It's called...
No, I thought...
It's called Uvda de Chol. So it would fall, it's a similar kind of category. Once again, these Chol HaMoed laws are not biblical laws. They're somewhat haphazard. They're laws that Chazal put in to try to ensure that we maintain the remembrance of what Chol HaMoed is. So that's why it's not going to dovetail with Malacha. It's not a Malacha thing. That's why I told you the thing of carrying from one house to another. It's not about there's no Eruv I'm carrying outside, which could be a Shabbos thing on the smallest object. It's really understood here to be there's a lot of tircha. I've got this heavy object, and I need to carry it from my house blocks away, and I have no purpose for it at all. Now, if I need it because I need to fix a fence, and a fence is going to fall down, I got to fix on the other side, I can do that. That's going to trump tircha.
Yeah, but back to his question for Shabbos, like I had, not that I wanted to do it because it's not Shabbos dick, but I thought if you, let's say your wife said, I want to move the couch from there to there, which involves a certain amount of work, let's say, that you could actually do that.
Well, I'm assuming you're doing it because you need it for Shabbos.
Let's say you did. Your wife just, I want to move.
So then the answer, if you didn't need it for Shabbos, it probably is, it's probably Uvda the Chol, because you're preparing for after Shabbos. I'm assuming that your wife said that because guests are coming and
guests are coming,
and they're going to be sitting there and it's not in the right place because whatever.
So, but what about the, so it's not the, what about the tircha though we're saying? The same effort, even if the guests are coming, your wife says, yeah, they're coming over to Shabbos or whatever, and it's got to be in that corner.
The point is that there's no real isser of quote unquote tircha on Shabbat.
That's what I'm saying. There's
the chol. There's other things which are close, but it's not really. There's no real parallel.
That's my impression.
Would you agree with that?
That's my impression.
I don't know. I would agree with it. A heavy workout. It's a heavy workout, physical workout permissible on Shabbos.
Again, nothing to do with...
What defines Shabbos? What defines Kavod Shabbos? The answer is Kavod Shabbos is because Shabbos is Shabbos Menucha, Shabbos is Oneg Shabbos.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to be missing all of that. It really goes in, it's antagonistic to everything a Shabbos stands for.
Agreed.
Now, you and I define Oneg Shabbos and Menucha Shabbos via Malacha. Right. So then we get this concept which doesn't fit into the neat square box of Malacha. We say, what is it? Oh, it's not Shabbos thing. It's really the same thing for Chol HaMoed. We don't say the term, it's not Chol HaMoedic. We're talking about tircha. Because Chol HaMoed, because everything mostly is permissible in one form or another, Right? You'd never say on Shabbos, well, if the wall is coming down, I'm going to take the bricks down and rebuild it. Right? You say maybe it's going to fall on someone, maybe I'd get them.
That's because there's a certain exactitude
Correct.
with laws
Of Shabbos.
and it's the right anyway.
Correct.
And this stuff is less important. It's the Rabbanan.
Right? Correct. And that's why we said that trying to make rules out of Chol Moed is extremely difficult. And we talked about that like Hilchos Kutim.
Yeah.
The laws about the Kutim, which didn't have any real consistency. They did this, they didn't do that. But that's because you don't have objective laws of Lamatat Malachot for Chol Moed. On the other hand, because of that, Chazal were extremely sensitive, because they realized if you didn't do that, the whole thing goes out. People forget it's Moed.
Like they do today.
Like they do today, correct. Like they do today, like it happened because we live in a non-Jewish world. People have to go to work, right? Or we emphasize the Chol more than the Moed. I agree. Okay, at any rate, this is really, once again, it's about tzircha, it's about heavy work. I said the only caveat is, I told in the second half of this Mishnah, of taking it from the Uman, the concern may be is that people might think that you had actually done it, right? You're bringing it home. You were the one who actually created the object. Okay. Where are we up to? So now the Gemara says, the Amrat Reisha Ein Mefanin Klal. So the Gemara asks on this. Have you finished the whole Mishnah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Amrat Ein Mefanin Klal. So the Gemara seems to say that if you look in the first part of the Mishnah, it says Ein Mefanim min BAYT LaBAYT. It means I can't move it from house to house. It means I can't move it at all.
Right.
And then you say you can move it l'chatzeiro. Right, just the first line of the Mishnah, first half of the Mishnah. So Gemara says it's an internal contradiction. First it says I can't move from house to house, means no moving. Then it says I can't move it, I can move it to the Chatzer, which means I can move it. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi, Seifa Ton l'bayit shebachatzer. The second part of the Mishnah is a Chatzer with the house is in the Chatzer. In other words, the first thing means I can't move from house to house to another chatzer. The second half of that first line means I can move it to a house in the same chatzer. That's the difference. What's the difference? Less tircha. Once you're not carrying issue. Okay. Okay. And I can't bring utensils from the Beit Uman. Amar Papa. True stories from famous people. Badik lon Rava. Rava tested us. He kind of gave us a little faher while we were not thinking, while we were unfocused. He says Tanan, Ein Mevim Kelim in Beit Uman. Okay, it says on our Mishnah, as we just read, you can't bring utensils home from the artisan's house. Right. Raminhu, and yet we have a brayta that says something else. And the brayta says, Molichin, this is about Chol Moed, Molichin umavim Kelim in Beit Uman, v'yafal pi she'enam l'tzarach hamoed. Okay, so it looks like
direct contradiction.
It looks like a direct contradiction. Why our Mishnah says you can't bring from the Beit Uman?
Right.
This brayta says you can take to the Uman and bring back from the Beit Uman, even though I don't need it. Boom, night and day, opposites.
Absolutely.
So B'Shanina, so who says this? Rav Papa says, here's what we answered Rav when he was giving us the fire. Kan bar basar, kan b'chol moed. No, the answer first. We gave him a couple answers. First answer is that our Mishnah is talking about chol moed.
Right.
And the one that you said you can bring it, that is about Erev Pesach. We already saw in the last piece of Gemara that Erev Pesach sometimes is equated, quasi, but it's not the same. So therefore, I can surely bring things home from the Beit Uman and Erev Pesach. It's done, it's worked, it's finished. It's not an issue, and I can't bring it home on Chol Moed. Okay. Ibay Dema. Another answer. Second answer we gave to Rava. Hava hava Chol Moed. Both of them are Chol Shemod. Kam b'mamino. Kam b'she'enu mamino. One is I'm afraid that he won't. I can't bring it home if the Uman lets me keep it there. Right, and if I'm afraid if I leave it there, I'll come back tomorrow and he won't believe it's mine. So in such a case, that's a pseida. I can take it home. I can take it home now. So notice, if there is a case where I'm concerned about the security because I will come back a day later and he will say this is no longer your utensil, I can take it at that point. Once again, pseida, hefseid, it's going to trump tircha. Okay. So that's the two answers we gave. Now the Gemara simply has a bit of an aside on this. Tanya, we have a brayso that says ken mibeita uman kagon kad mibeita kader. This brayso talks about chala moed. I can bring utensils from you from an artisan, such as a kad is a jug, flask from the jug maker. V'koz mi beit hazagag, and I can bring a glass from the glass maker. V'avolot semer mi beit hatzava, I can't bring the wool from the wool maker, the dye maker, V'lo kelim mi beit ha'uman, and I can't bring more other utensils made to uman. Vim einam amino, vim einam mashiochal, notin lo schor umanicho v'etzlo. And if he doesn't have, right, if he doesn't have, the artisan doesn't have money, I can pay him, and what do? I leave it there. Leave it there. But vim einam amino, if the person doesn't trust him, then I'm going that if I leave it there, I won't come back, it won't be there. Or maybe the Uman doesn't trust that I'll come back and get the right one. So manicho b'bayt hasamach lo, I can move it out of the artisan's house and move it to a house nearby. V'im choshesh lahem shema yignevu, and if I'm still concerned in that house, I move it to it's going to get stolen. So what can I do? So we can mafanim lechatzer acheres, or mevim mitzina b'toch beso. I can bring it quietly when people aren't looking into my own house. So this brisa supports what we said about mamino and lo mamino. So what do we have until now? Let's go back to what Rav Papa said. We were tested by Rava. He gave us one brisa that says, our Mishnah says you can't bring it home. So the brisa says you can take it to Yuman and you can bring it back. How do we answer that? One answer is Erev Pesach and Chol Hamoed. Second answer is believing him.
Or not believing.
The guy believes me, trusts me or doesn't trust me. Okay, so those are two answers. Now the Gemara asks on this, and the brisa that we just quoted supports the fact that you see that trust and not trust is a reason for me to move it.
Definitely.
So the Gemara has one question which is going to knock off the second answer. Tirat meviyin molichin kasha. So you explain to me why I can bring home from the artisan. Remember the question.
That means you gave a teretz.
You gave a teretz. No, the question was that our Mishnah says you can't bring home from the BAYT to your house. The Brayta says I can bring two and take home. So the Gemara now asks the question. So I explain it. I can understand why I got to bring it back. Because I leave it there, I might not get it again.
Right.
Why would I take it to him?
In the first place.
Exactly. In the first place. If you tell me it's Erev Yantiv, it's Erev Pesach, I understand why I take it to him. It has nothing to do with working now. He can work on Erev Pesach. He can do it later after Yantiv. Bring it.
Doesn't it depend on what kind of tools we're talking about? Like, as we said just previously, if it's like a glass making thing, and you want to make a glass for Yantiv.
So that's Erev Pesach. We say now both cases are Chol Hamoed. So what we didn't answer is one is L'tzarach Moed and one is not L'tzarach Moed. So I think the brisa says, the brisa we just read says, Afa b'shein L'tzarach Moed. Right, that's why. So you can't say that's for Chol Hamoed. So it's clearly not for Chol Hamoed. So you can't say I needed to bring it for the guy to make me a glass for me to take home. So I don't need it. So what would it be? So why then would I bring it to him? I can understand and say I take it home. I can't take it home when I can trust leaving there. I do take it home when I can't trust leaving it there. But why would I bring it? That's the Gemara says Tirat meviyin molichin kasha. The Katani ein meviyin. The kolshkein ein molichin. Because our Mishnah says ein mafanim, which really means you're not going to bring it home, which means you also can't bring it there. So the Gemara says el machvarta kideshanina meikara. Kideshani meikara. The second answer falls off, and you got to go back and answer the first answer that the brisa that Rava was quoting to Rav Papa was a brisa about Erev Pesach, the 14th of Nisan. So there's no other way really around it. Okay.
So Erev Pesach is almost like quasi Chol Hamoed.
Or some things are similar. There's a diminution of work on Erev Pesach in some places at least. Okay. And those places allowed certain people to work and most people could not. A lot got to get done for Yontif.
Right.
And people who go to work come sliding in, right?
Well, the Pesach one seems clear, right? It's like...
No,
Like you
what
just
Jack is really trying to understand is why Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach seems to be looking for a template like Chol Moed. The answer is because I guess Chazal recognized that there's a special uniqueness of Erev Pesach. Right, midday things change. They had to have the Erev Pesach in place. The Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach is shechted on Erev Pesach.
And it's a big deal. There's a lot of work to be done.
Correct. So it's a shtickle yantiv.
Yeah.
So that's why it's compared. On the other hand, as we saw in the previous Gemara, the real key value of Erev Pesach is getting ready for Pesach. Key value of Chol Moed is not to have tircha. Okay, the last mission of our Perek. Okay, mechapin es haketzios bekash. Okay, ketziot are figs, and mechapin means to cover. So they would cover drying figs with straw. The straw allowed the moisture to be absorbed, aided in the drying process, probably may have kept maybe moisture out. All right, and it's permissible to do this. The ta'inim were spread out in the field. Once again, they're sitting on the ground. They're going to get moist. She put yet straw on top of them. So you can do it on Chol Moed because to protect it from rain, allow the drying process, and to make sure they would be ruined by any rain that would come down. Rabbi Yehuda Omer af ma'avin. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda says that you can even know the word ma'avin is not clear what this means. Okay.
They define it here as make it thick.
No, that's correct. What are you making thick?
Rav Steinsaltz says, "Menichim otam ba'arema tzfufa yoter."
Okay, so he
sounds like you could.
Right. So in other words, the question doesn't mean I'm putting more straw, thick straw on it, or I'm putting them into a pile to bind them thickly. The Gemara is going to present both opinions. So and why would I put them into a bigger pile so that the ones on top will protect the ones in the bottom? I guess they've dried, but I need to be concerned that the moisture from the rain doesn't ruin them. Okay, so therefore I bring them together in a ball. So Rabbi Yehuda says I can even do that. It's obviously more work to put either more straw or to put them into a ball. Okay. Mochre peiros ksut v'kelim mochre b'tzinim moed. So last Mishnah we talked about you can't do sales because of not Chol Moed. What if you're doing sales for Chol Moed? So if you're selling peyrod, you're selling garments, you're selling utensils, you can sell them quietly. How do you sell them quietly? Bitzino. So what's bitzino? It means you close one door, then you just have two doors, like think of a stall that opens up in a bazaar, right?
Isn't it obvious that it's l'tzarach yontiv? Especially stuff that's perishable, right?
Did you ever see what happens 15 minutes before the mall closes and the store closes?
Big rush to cash.
More important, what's happening on the outside? Sometimes they're closing down some of the gates, right? They're putting the curtains down, they're closing off some of the lights. What are they trying to do? Discourage people from going in.
Right.
Now, sometimes they actually lock the door, but assuming the door is still open, they're trying to kind of tone things down so you get the message, it's not the time to do it. You're only going to really run in, and this is the thing you have to have, you can't get through the night. Then they'll let you in. And that's the same thing with Chol Moed. So you have to think of the stores, don't think of the stores like our malls or shopping centers. Think of them as the open air stalls like the shuk. Right, or like even in the mall, the kiosks in the middle that they open up, right, or in a bazaar, not a bazaar, not a yard sale. What do they call these things? Like a fair, where they have these things that open up. So if it's really not open, it's all the wares are closed up, and you have to go in. It's like the old story that said Joe sent me and I'm allowed to get in by wholesale. Those kind of things, that means it's open, but it's really, we're trying to discourage people who don't really need it. So those were the stores, by the way, that opened right into the main thoroughfare. Right? There were stores, by the way, that were stalls that were on the side. didn't have the key real estate location, they were off the center, in the corner, those stores could open up because they were really hidden anyway. But that's what Bitsina means. Okay? That's this Mishnah.
The idea is just not to show that things are normal in a sense. Is that what you're saying?
Correct,
kind of?
correct. No, to say that's really opening up. That we're really opening up because you need to have items for Yantiv.
Right.
And you got to remember, in those days, people did shopping from one day for the next.
Absolutely.
So that clearly was meant to minimize. And as it says, Mochin B'tzina L'tzorcha Moed. Okay. Hatzayadim v'had shushos v'had grusos. Tzayadim are people trapping nets, captured with nets. Trappers. The shushos and grusos were people who were cracking wheats, or cracking grusot might be a bean or perhaps spelt. We'll see.
I'm fascinated to know who the trapper, what they were trapping. You don't have to answer, but
what were they trapping animals?
Jewish trappers. Why were they trapping them? For what? I mean, we were going to eat any animals that were trapped. I don't think. There are very few animals running around.
Trapped deers.
What?
Trapped deers.
I guess. Yeah, no.
The discussion with Masechah Shabbos is about trapping a deer. A deer?
You can shaft a deer.
A deer is very kosher.
Yeah, you can't hunt it.
You can't hunt it. You can't kill it with a gun.
He's saying.
So you had to capture it.
He's saying.
Right. So you could be trapping deer. Yes, you could be trapping.
Or a snare, whatever.
You could be trapping birds.
Birds. That's what they were trapping. I think birds. Yes.
Okay.
Birds. Birds for sure. Bird is an inexpensive thing, and they're relatively.
And that's how they got them. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Birds. That's it. That's the one.
Okay. So the trappers were busy, and the people who were cracking. I'm not sure exactly. They were taking the kernel and breaking the kernel into smaller pieces. Think of it as cracked wheat. Think of it as it's cracked, but it's like matzah farfel is to matzah, so cracked wheat is to the wheat. So osim b'tzin tzorach moed. They also did a b'tzin tzorach moed in order to show that this was just v'yantav. Rav Yossi Omer hey mechmira al atzmam. Yossi says not really true. They could really. It looks like what Rav Yossi is saying is these people could. Actually, I should say it's not clear what they're saying. Is Rav Yossi saying they did a b'tzina because they were machmir? Or are they saying, as Rabbi Yossi is saying, they were so machmir on themselves they didn't even do this at all? So they could have done a b'tzina, but they decided not to do this for it all.
Altogether.
And we'll see from the Gemara that it's the latter interpretation of Rabbi Yossi is really saying that certain places, certain professions, took a vacation altogether. Okay. Now, the first part of the Mishnah talked about ma'avin, mechapin, and ma'avin.
Right.
So the Gemara wants to know what is actually mechapin is covering. So what's ma'avin? Pligi bar Rav Chia bar Abba Rav Asi. V'tavar mishmei the Chizkiyo. Give Rav Yochanan. They're machlokas, and both of them were arguing based on Chizkiyo and Rav Yochanan. Chadamar mechapin aklushi. One says mechapin is to cover them. Aklushi means you're covering with spaces between them. Okay. So that you're taking the straw, but there's holes between the straw. And ma'avin asmuchi, when it says ma'avin, it's thick straw, or the straw is spread out so that it's thickly covering it. There's no spaces, there's no breaks. So one says the difference between the two of them is how much straw. Straw with breaks, a little bit of straw, a light layer of straw, or another one's a heavy layer of straw. So that's machlokas. How much straw is you allowed to use? The first opinion says only a little bit. Rabbi Yehuda says even a lot. It's more work. B'chadamar mechapim ben aklushi ben asmuchi. The second opinion says no. Mechapim means to cover with straw. Little straw, large straw. It's all the same thing. Ma'avin osinoso kmin kri. Ma'avin means you take the actual, not the straw. You're taking the actual figs and you're putting them into like a basket shape. A circle together. That's obviously more work. Simply throwing out straw is less work. Picking them all up together and binding them together in a small circle, small basket-like shape is going to be much more work. So that's machlokas, what ma'avin is and what mechapin is. That's what that means. Tanya nami hachi. We have a brayso that says the same thing. Ma'avin osan kmin kri. Ma'avin. You make it like a creed, div Rabbi Yehuda. Then Rabbi Yehuda says this is what it means. So what we have in our Mishnah, Ma'avin, the Brayso explains what Ma'avin is to be the second interpretation. Okay. So far, so good.
Right.
The last part of the Mishnah was about that there were certain people who were machmir on themselves.
Right.
And I just told you what the Gemara is going to say. So the Gemara says, here's the question. Does it mean they were machmir not to do anything at all, not in Mitzina? Means no. They could do it b'fahesya. They were machmir to do it b'tzina. So what the first line of the Mishnah says, these groups did it b'tzina, that was only a chumrah. So what does it mean? So the Gemara brings a number of cases of people in different towns who were machmir not to do work at all, and you see that's what machmir means here. Tashma. So we have this price that says exactly what we learned before. You can do it b'tzina, selling payroll, ksus, and kalim. Rabbi Yossi says what about certain towns? Tagre Tveria, the merchants of Tveria, they wouldn't sell at all. And that's the first one. The trappers, and here you see who they are: chayot, ofod, and dagim, also fishes. So it's animals like deer, ofod, birds, and dagim are fish. Sadim Mitzina did quietly. It's Moed. That's what our Mishnah said. Rabbi Yossi says no. Sade Akko, the trappers of Akko. Akko was on the sea, so there may have been more fishermen there. They didn't trap at all. Okay. Third scenario, same brisa, the same Rabbi Yossi going to argue. The Shushe Chilka Targis V'Tisni. The Shushe are people who crack. What were they called in our Mishnah? The Shushot.
Right.
So now we're told what they're actually cracking. They're cracking Chilka.
What's chilka?
Chilka is, I believe we'll see, it's
okay.
Wheat broken into different types. So the Gemara is going to say Chilka is going to be broken into one half. You crack in half. Targis, the Gemara is going to say is one, and you break it into 3 pieces. Tasnis, you break it into 4 pieces. How many cracks do you make into the kernel of wheat? This was a specialty because you and I would stand on the wheat, we'd make it into wheat dust.
Exactly.
Right? So you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So these people would work with tzina l'tzarchamoid. They'd work for tzina b'tzarchamoid. Obviously, some of the people had on Yom or Chalamoid. Rabbi Yossi Omer, the shushe tzipori, no, the crackers of tzipori, heimech me'alas m'shleihu choshim kolikar. They would not doshishim. They wouldn't do it at all.
There is at all.
Okay. So you see from all of these 3 cases, what was the chumrah? The chumrah was not to do it at all. Okay. Rabbi, now the Gemara tries to understand what exactly are these chilka and the targis and tisni. There are 2 interpretations. Rabbi chilka chad l'tarti, break it 1 and 2. Targis is chad l'tlas 1 to 3. Tisni is chad l'arba 1 to 4. Okay, pretty good. It's easy. Right. Now, Kiyas Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael. Amar said kutna. He said no. The last one, targis. Which one is chilka? Which one is kunta?
Chilka is splitting it into 2.
No. The last one, Chilka, the first one is about spelt. Okay? So the kunta is about spelt. So it's not, in other words, it's not breaking into smaller and bigger pieces. The first one means we're using spelt, and the other objects were about breaking the smaller pieces.
I got it.
Meitvei, chilka. So now there's a question whether it really means spelt and not breaking smaller pieces. From the following brisa, chilka targis v'tisni tmei b'chol makom. So that we have a rule: these objects were tamei, always tamei. So Gemara says, why would they always be? For something to be tamei, what has to happen to it?
Get wet.
It has to get wet. It has to be detached from the ground.
Right.
And after it's detached, it gets wet. How would it normally get wet? You wash grain. Grain that we buy, for example, the commercial flour has all been washed, except if it's stone ground. But usually most of it's ground.
If it's all tummy, then why did it eat it? What is it?
No, so we don't know what, it's not defining what it is. It's simply a brisa that's telling us in Masechet Machshirin that chilga, targis, and tisni are always tamei. So Gemara says, well, can we learn from this what chilga, targis, and tisni is? According to the first opinion, it says it's a matter of how many cracks you cracked it into. It's always wheat. So Mishum Hachi, Tzmei B'chol Makom. I know it's going to be tamei because in order to crack the wheat, I first had to soften it up. How would I soften it up? I'd wash it. I'd get it moist. So this kasher, in order to crack the wheat, part of the process in cracking any grain in the wheat was I had to have it come wet, which means any chilga, targis, and tisni, any half-cracked wheat, triple-cracked wheat, quadruple-cracked pieces are going to have come into contact with water before, which means it'll all be tamei. Elaman Delmar Kunta, but according to the second opinion, it says chilga is not about cracking into half, but it's about spelt. All spelt, amai tzmei b'chol. Why is all spelt going to be tamei? Ha'loed kasher. You don't have, spelt can be dry spelt.
Of course.
It doesn't have to be washed. So Gemara says could go in the miklah fund. It's talking about spelt that was whole. They took the shell off. So once again, to take the shell off, you have to soften it up, and you have the lav, the shari leba maya, lo have a miklah. If you didn't put it soaking in water, you couldn't soften it up to then remove the husk from the chilka. So therefore, you can even say that chilka means spelt, not cracked wheat in half.
But only if you assume that you took off the husks.
Correct. But that's what chilka is. V'mai korle chilka, continue reading. Why is it called chilka? The shulka chalkiyah. Because you took off chilka comes from chelik. It's an object. It's an attachment. You took off the part that's a part of it, which is the outer husk. Okay. Good. Let's come. We can finish this. Finish the Perek. Meisvei. Hanodem and adagon aser af bepul hamitzri yavesh. Okay, so this once again, the topic of the brisa is not really our topic, but we'll see that the chilka, targis, and tisni are mentioned. We'll try to learn from this brisa what they are. If I say that I cannot have, I take a neder not to have from dagan, from grain, I can't even have things that double as sustenance, which is like grain. Pula mitzri was an Egyptian bean. Beans are used, right? You can make bean flour. Make bean flour in some cultures. So I can't even use bean flour that's dry. But I can have. So I can't have dry beans, but I can have wet beans because once the bean is wet, it can never become flour. All I said, I can't have grain. So a moist bean is not grain. A dry bean, which can be ground, is considered like grain. Umuta ba'orez. But it's permissible for me to have rice. For us, rice is almost like a grain, but it's not in those days. Bechilka b'targis v'tisni. So, and it's permissible for me to have these chilka, targis, and tisni. Now, what is chilkas, targis, and tisni? What are the two choices? Either they're cracked in pieces, or they're spelt. So if I say I cracked into half, a third, or quarters, that's no longer considered going to be dagan. It's no longer considered.
You can't make it the flour.
Right. It's a separate standalone item. It's like it's like a cereal, like a cracked wheat.
Right.
Like a potato chip. So shapir denaf galemitar is dagan. It's no longer considered grain. It's no longer considered grain like flour. Elamandam or kunta. But if I say that chilka means spelt, dagan ma'al yehu. That's a real grain. And I said I can't have dagan, I can't have grain. I would include kunta, spelt, as one of the 5 cereal grains that becomes chametz.
Absolutely.
Right? So Gemara says kasha. So Gemara says that's a kasha. You're right. So the second approach, the second interpretation of chilka, that it's kunta, is knocked off. We come back to chilka is cracked wheat in half, targis is cracked in a third, and tisni is cracked in a quarter. Okay. Last piece of the Gemara. Rav Huna Sharle Lahano Krufaisa Lemezel Lezvune Kircha Beshuka. So Rav Huna permitted these were spice merchants to sell normally in the marketplace. No,
on Cholamoid,
they could open up their place and work like normally. Now, the obvious question is going to be
why?
We just learned that the normal sellers have to close it up.
Exactly.
So, and here we see Rav Huna didn't say that to the spice guys. So, Eisvei Rav Kahana, Chanut Petucha L'Stoyo Poel V'Nol Kedarko. So, Brisa, which is a little more expansive of our Mishnah. If you have a store that's on the side, Stoyo is the side, the edge of the marketplace, you can open and close it normally because that's like hidden. Petucha L'Shut Rabbi, if the stall is open into the main thoroughfare, Potech Achad V'Nol Achas. You open one and close one. Think of this as a bifold, like the whole store opens up. Right? So I said, think of this as like the newsstands where the guy opens up and you have things on both sides. So one stays closed and one's open that you can enter in. So the Erev Yom Tov Acharon, and the Brisa goes a little further. It says the day of Erev Yom Tov before Shmini Atzeres, Erev Yom Tov before the last day of Pesach. In such a day, Motzi Matzeret Shukei Ha'ir B'Peirot. That last day you can open up wide open and you do more advertising B'Shvil Kvod Yom Acharon, because you want to give cover to the last Yom Tov. You want people actually to buy. You want to encourage them to buy for Yom Tov.
Right.
So the rest of the Chol HaMoed, you close it down, you only open like surreptitiously, half open. The last day before Yom Tov, the last day of Chol HaMoed, you open it wide open. So far there's no question.
And again, the concept of opening it all together
Because it covered Yom Tov. To show,
no,
whoa,
not the last day. I'm saying during the other days of Chol
it's to buy
HaMoed,
for Yom Tov. It's to buy for Chol HaMoed.
is the idea that some people will need it,
For Chol
right?
HaMoed.
And you as a merchant
Are providing for
those people.
Right. So, but I wanted to do it like semi-close to tell people, if you don't need for Yom Tov, if you don't need for Chol HaMoed, don't come. Yom Tov, everybody had to buy. You had to store up for a day or two or whatever it was. So you wanted to give kavod, motziim acher shuki here, but peyrot. You wanted to really emblazon the place, the marketplace with peyrot. So at any rate, what do you see from this? That the only time we allowed people to open up was the day before the last day of Yom Tov.
Open fully.
Open fully, because of Kvod Yom Achron. If Shabbos falls on Chol HaMoed, they wouldn't open for Shabbos?
Well, you open fully because they've got to prepare for Shabbos.
Maybe Thursday even for Shabbos.